कृष्णाय परमात्मने बलभद्र जगन्नाथाय ते नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण। We were talking about Ashtanga Yoga. Somebody remembers the verse, which we are supposed to take?
Prabhuji, maybe 10th one, Prabhu. 6.9 you covered.
Nobody remembers the verse? Everything went away with the New Year party. You do not forget everything about past year.
I think from 11th we have started.
You should remember Krishna conscious philosophy. I think either it was 15th, as far as I remember. 6.11. 11.
Yes, Prabhuji, 6.11.
11, as far as I remember, we discussed 11. Okay, fine. Still, we can restart because duties have forgotten. Sucho dese patishthapya sthiram asanam atmanah nati uchchiritam nati nicham chailajin kusottaram tatra ekagram manah kritva yat chittendriya kriyah upavisyasane yunjyad yogam atmavisuddhaye. Please read the translation.
Hare Krishna. To practice yoga, one should go to a secluded place and should lay kusha grass on the ground and then cover it with a deer skin and a soft cloth. The seat should be neither too high nor too low and should be situated in a sacred place. The yogi should then sit on it very firmly and practice yoga to purify the heart by controlling his mind, senses, and activities and fixing the mind on one point.
So what this yogi does is he establishes asana, then he puts kusa on above that. So he puts kusa on the bottom. So how he establishes asana is he puts kusa on the bottom, then deer skin, finally cloth at the top. And the seats doesn't have to be too high or too low, because if it is too high, person may be embedded in the seat and he may go to sleep. And if it is too low, then one's back will start paining after some time. So Krishna is very practical, not too high, not too low. Then it is spoken that Atma Visuddhaye. You should engage in meditation for what? For the purpose of purification. That means the purpose of purification is not there, then no use of sitting like that. Like this, nowadays we find about so many people doing asanas and doing so-called meditation, etc. But then the purpose is not Atma Visuddhaye. They don't do for the purpose of purification. Many times people sit in asanas for the purpose of sense gratification. I'll get a healthy body, healthy mind, and then I'll enjoy more. So then that is not considered to be a part of Ashtanga Yoga. So it's very clear, Atma Visuddhaya. Then by freedom from disturbance, Antakarana. So then what one does is, one sits in a firm place, works for the purification of mind, senses, and activities. By that, what happens is the Antakarana becomes very pacified, means mind becomes very pacified. Intelligence becomes very pacified. or you can also say they become very weak. Weak in the sense that senses don't roam here and there. Like when suppose somebody is trying to control an animal, if animal is very powerful, it's very difficult to control. Like elephants, practically impossible to control. Weak animals can be controlled. Similarly, the weak mind and senses can be controlled. Strong mind and senses cannot be controlled. So all those arrangements are just made just to make the mind and intelligence weak. Weak in the sense that they don't run behind sense gratification out of control. They remain peaceful. Then you can control them. And that becomes suitable for realization of Brahman. It is given Kathopanishad. Dasyate tva agraya buddhya sukshmaya sudam dhiristu paramatmana. That Paramatma is seen by fine concentrated intelligence by seers of the subtle. That means when the mind and intelligence they are pacified, it's easy to see Paramatma. So if we see in the Vedic culture, refined intelligence has a lot of usage. That is not true nowadays. Like for example, many people can't read even Sanskrit verses which are given in our scriptures when they're written in Devanagari. Devanagari means Sanskrit language or Hindi language. Devanagari. So many people are not able to read. They can read only in English. Because you need a lot of patience and sharp intelligence to even read them properly. Patience is required. Similarly, to relish Sastri Sangeet, music, one needs a certain level of pacification of the mind. And if you see Kali Yuga music, it will dang you to such a level that that even a person who's sleeping would wake up. So it's a music meant for dull people. So in Vedic culture, everything is very, very, very refined. The way of etiquette, even reading things, hearing things, speaking things, they're very refined. Yes, Sanskrit itself takes a lot of time to learn. How you pronounce one should know what one is pronouncing. So then there is Anupurvi. Anupurvi, each and every word, you break it into small. The Ram itself has 4 syllables. Ra, A, Ma, A. Rama. So Sanskrit is about subtleties. Similarly, much more subtlety and sharpness of intelligence is required for practicing Ashtanga Yoga. So one does that by all these things, like sitting in a peaceful place, fixing one's mind in one point. Then it happens. Because with such a sharp intelligence, one can analyze or understand the presence of Paramatma. One can see how world cannot move automatically. There has to be a person behind that. One can see oneself different from the body. As I told before, if you remember in one of the classes, that intelligent people don't just think, they can think how they think, and they can plan how to think. So that comes by when one's intelligence is very strong and one pointed. Okay, so this is about some more, much more restrictions are there. 13-14. Samam kaya siro grivam dharayan achalam stiram sampreksh nasikagram swam disas chana valokayan prasantatma vigat bhi brahmachari vrite sthitah mana samyam machitto yukta asit matparah. Please read the translation.
One should hold one's body, neck and head erect in a straight line and stay steadily on the tip of the nose. Thus, with unagitated, subdued mind, devoid of fear, completely free from sex life. One should meditate upon me within the heart and make me the ultimate goal of life. Hare Krishna.
So kaya means the middle section of the body, from neck down. So that should be in line with head and neck. So one should sit straight. Mana samyam pratyaraha. That means mind should not be engaged in the thoughts of sense gratification, because they are the food for the mind. One should be restrained from that. And machitta, one should meditate on the Lord, is there in the cause of Chetana, Chitta. That is Krishna or Paramatma in the heart. And Matparha means Yukta Asit Matparha, again it's given. Matparha means one should ultimately be absorbed in Lord with devotion. Not that one is seeing the form of Paramatma the way one sees some concentric circles. First thing, concentric circles cannot be the type of meditation. There are, why I'm seeing concentric circles, because there's an organization where they concentrate on concentric circles. That's not the object of meditation for a yogi. So your object of meditation matters. What is your object of meditation? And results are obtained according to object of meditation. So there's a verse in Bhagavatam, a famous verse. Kirata hunanda pulinda pulkasa abhir sumbaya vanakasadaya yanne cha papa yadapasraya sraya suddhandi tasme parva vishnave namaha. So this says there may be people who are from very, very outcast caste, like Kirat, Hunandra, Purinda Pulkas, so many. Yanne cha papa yadapasraya sraya. But all these people and who are outcast, who cannot be counted in Varnashram, if they take shelter of one who has taken shelter of the Supreme Lord, up asraya sraya, what happens for them? Suddhanti tasmin, they all become purified. Why they become purified? Because Parva Vishnave Namaha. Because object of meditation is very powerful. So object of meditation also determines the type and degree of purification. So it's not just meditation alone. So this is something which nowadays so-called people who are so-called yogis, they just don't just understand. If you meditate on some movie actor or actress, it will just increase the lust only. Dhyate pasya visayan pumsab sanga se tum jayate sangat sanjayate kama. So dhyato, there also dhyan is there. There also meditation is there. But when one meditates on opposite sex, then lust increases. And somebody doing dhyan on some concentric circles. Oh, concentric circle is not like something very powerful. But when somebody is meditating on Lord Vishnu within the heart, because the object of meditation is very powerful, is pure, such meditation purifies. Meditation on the deities liberates. Meditation on some human body entangles. So object of meditation increases, matters. Whether what will be the result. So that's why, and if you see that so many restrictions are there, it will become very clear how practicing Ashtanga Yoga is so difficult. Somebody read the purport. Prabhupada makes it like very strong, although big purport, but still, you can just read it. Please read the purport.
Yes, Prabhu. The goal of life is to know Krishna. who is situated within the heart of every living being as Paramatma. The 400 Vishnu form. The yoga process is practiced in order to discover and see this localized form of Vishnu and not for any other purpose. The localized Vishnu Murti is the plenary representation of Krishna dwelling within one's heart. One who has no program to realize this Vishnu Murti is uselessly engaged in mock yoga practice and is certainly wasting his time. Krishna is the ultimate goal of life, and the Vishnu Murti situated in one's heart is the object of yoga practice. To realize this Vishnu Murti within the heart, one has to observe complete abstinence from sex life. Therefore, one has to leave home and live alone in a secluded place, remaining seated as mentioned above. One cannot enjoy sex life daily at home or elsewhere and attend a so-called yoga class and thus become a yogi. One has to practice controlling the mind and avoiding all kinds of sense gratification, of which sex life is the chief. In the rules of celibacy written by the great sage Yajnavalkya, it is said, Karmana manasa vacha sarvavastav sarvada sarvatra maituna tyago brahmacharyam prachaksate. The vow of brahmacharya is meant to help one completely abstain from sex indulgence in work, words, and mind, at all times, under all circumstances, and in all places. No one can perform correct yoga practice through sex indulgence. Brahmacharya is taught, therefore, from childhood, when one has no knowledge of sex life. Children at the age of 5 are sent to the Gurukula, or the place of the spiritual master, and the master trains the young boys in the strict discipline of becoming brahmacharis. Without such practice, no one can make advancement in any yoga, whether it be dhyana, gnana, or bhakti. One who, however, follows the rules and regulations of married life, having a sexual relationship only with his wife, and that also under regulation, is also called a brahmachari. Such a restrained householder, brahmachari, may be accepted in the bhakti school, but the gnana and dhyana schools do not even admit householder brahmacharis. They require complete abstinence without compromise. In the bhakti school, a householder brahmachari is allowed controlled sex life because the cult of bhakti yoga is so powerful that one automatically loses sexual attraction, being engaged in the superior service of the Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said, Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehinaha rasavarjam rasopiyasya aparam drushva nivartate. Whereas others are forced to restrain themselves from sense gratification. A devotee of the Lord automatically refrains because of super taste. Other than devotee, no one has any information of that superior taste. Vigata B. One cannot be fearless unless one is fully in Krishna consciousness. A conditioned soul is fearful due to his perverted memory, his forgetfulness of his eternal relationship with Krishna. The Bhagavatam 11th canto, 2nd chapter, 37 says, Bhayam dvitiya abhiniveshyatah shad ishad abetasya viparyayo asmriti. Krishna consciousness is the only basis for fearlessness. Therefore, perfect practice is possible for a person who is Krishna conscious. And since the ultimate goal of yoga practice is to see the Lord within, a Krishna conscious person is already the best of all yogis. The principles of the yoga system mentioned herein are different from those of the popular so-called yoga societies. Hare Krishna, brother. Thank you.
Prabhupada makes it very clear that anyway, somebody especially want to practice the yoga room stage, the higher state of dharana, dhyan, samadhi, or one wants to practice Gyan Marg, Gyan Yoga. That's not possible for householders. It's possible only those who are in renounced order of life. Bhakti is the only process which is like all accommodative. Even a child can practice bhakti. Even a baby can now take some prasad, Mahaprasad in the mouth and practice bhakti or hear chanting of the Hare Krishna. So that's possible only bhakti. So that is so called many times, because why I'm we are highlighting that is many times devotees have a lot of questions regarding this organization and that organization. Actually speaking, if we see bona fide, then we have to see all the rules and regulations of a bona fide process. So so-called organizations don't even stand on that level. So fine, one can get some bodily benefits and health benefits. That's okay. But we don't call it as a spiritual process for advancement in spiritual life. Now we'll go to the next verse. So that's why so many restrictions are there for Ashtanga Yoga. Yunjan evam sadatmanam yogi niyat mansaha santi nirvanat paramam mat samstham adhigachati. Please read the translation.
Thus, practicing constant control of the body, mind, and activities, the mystic transcendentalist, his mind regulated, attains to the kingdom of God or the abode of Krishna by cessation of material existence.
Atmanam yunjan. Here Atmanam means basically mind. So by engaging the mind in what? In Dhyana Yoga or meditation. So Niyat Nitya Manasaha, the consciousness which is not attracted to sense objects, but to something transcendental. That's Lord Paramatma within the heart. So what happens for them is Santim Nirvanam Paramam. Santi means he doesn't get entangled in this world. One gets permanent pacification of mind and senses by getting rid of this cycle of birth and death. And in this way, one gets Nirvana, Paramam, basically which means impersonal Brahman realization. And this impersonal realization also Krishna says Mat Sthanam, Samsthanam. So Mat Samsthanam literally means kingdom of God, but it also means that this Brahma Jyoti is part of my own existence. So even those who are merging in Brahma Jyoti are also getting Krishna, but they are not getting personal relationship with Krishna. So they are missing the personal relationship with Krishna. So in this way, they also get liberation. So that happens just by following all those rules and regulations. And also, main thing is by meditating. Meditating on Lord Vishnu in the heart. So I just read all the conditions and then we'll tell about more detail about Ashtanga Yoga. So what we'll do is let us complete the whole process through Bhagavad Gita and then we'll summarize it. 16th verse. Nati asnatastu yogo asti nacha kantam anasnataha nachati swapna silasya jagrato nevacharjuna. Further regulations in Ashtanga Yoga practice. Please read.
There is
There
no,
is no
Go ahead, Mataji.
There is no possibility of one's becoming a yogi. O Arjuna, if one eats too much or eats too little, sleeps too much or does not sleep enough.
One has to be very regulated in life. Regulated means there is time for eating, sleeping, hours, everything is very fixed. And that is also a sign of goodness. So regulation eating means half of the belly should be filled with food, 1/4 with water, and 1/4 should be left for movement of air. That means don't eat too much. Sometimes people eat so much that there's no space for movement of air only. I remember one of my friends, he would eat to the degree when he would be hard of breathing. So he would have difficulty in breathing. That means belly is full now. So don't eat so much. Allow something to happen or some space for movement of air also. Or sometimes, some people eat so much that even water doesn't go inside. I told you the pastime of that European devotee who ate a lot of halwa. I thought and why I told.
No
So
problem.
okay. So one European devotee, he just came to India, and then I think mostly it was in Chandigarh, Rath Yatra. So first time he tasted halwa, and he liked it so much that he came for third time, fourth time, fifth time, and the waiter, the devotee was serving. He understood that this devotee really likes halwa, so he said, "Don't worry, have some patience. Whatever remains is going to be there with you." And almost 3/4 of the bucket of halwa was remaining, and he kept it in his room and went away. And suddenly at 12 o'clock in the night, there was a call for temple president. There is emergency. So this devotee, he ate whole halwa actually. And then they were even putting water. Water was not going inside. Water was just coming outside. So devotee was feeling no. So he was just about to die. So not able to breathe, not able to drink water. Medicines have to go inside only, then they'll work. They were not going inside only. So they took them to the hospital. And hospital also nothing was working because nothing was going inside. And they did an X-ray and they found that up to neck whole halwa is full. And then they had to operate him to remove the halwa. So terrible. So regulation has to be there. Other thing is one eats too much beyond a level rather than giving energy to the body, it sucks the energy of the body. And if one eats too less, there won't be sufficient energy in the body. If one eats too much, then that eating only digestion takes away the energy of the body. I don't know how many of you have experienced. Some feasts are there if you eat too much. After that, rather than feeling energized, one feels very tired. Why? Because the whole energy of the body is just wasted in digestion. So not too much, not too less. Similarly, sleeping, somebody sleeps less, he'll become crazy. He eats too much, sleeps too much, one becomes too lazy. Intelligence becomes very dull. So sleep has to be appropriate, not too less, not too much. So certainly this is something which is applicable for the devotees also. And then that's why Krishna speaks next verse. Yuktahara viharasya yukta cheshtasya karmasu yukta swapnavabodhasya yogo bhavati dukkha. Please read that translation.
He who is regulated in his habits of eating, sleeping, recreation, and work, we can mitigate all material pains by practicing the yoga system.
The one who controls yukta, what ahara viharasya, how much to eat, how much not to eat. So things should be more or less fixed. Viharasya, walking also. So not just eat and sit at one place. One should walk also. There has to be some regulation. So walking, exercises, whatever is required for keeping body fit, one should do that. Otherwise, what happens is later on one has to pay the price by becoming sick. Same is chestasya. Chestas means things like endeavoring, like speaking, etc. It should be regulated. Karmasu. Similarly, there are duties towards the body, mind. Now, certainly for yogis, relatives are not there, work is not there. For devotees, even these things are there. So that has to be regulated. If one doesn't regulation, what is the result? Yogo bhavati dukkha. The practice of yoga becomes very, very pleasurable. It doesn't create suffering. So to the degree one is irregulated, to the degree one goes in mode of passion. And the result of passion is suffering. So regulation helps. Now next verse. Yada viniyatam chittam atmani evavitishthate nispraha sarvakamebhyo yukta iti uchyate tada. Please read the translation.
When the yogi, by practice of yoga, disciplines his mental activities and becomes situated in transcendence, devoid of all material desires, he is said to be a well established in yoga.
So when does yogi become perfect? The answer is given in this verse. Vinetam chittam. That means his consciousness doesn't wander here and there towards sense gratification. Especially Prabhupada writes in the purport of his sex is chief. That means sex desire. That is a test. Yogi sees, okay, no sex desire, okay, fine. Now I'm perfect. And Atmani avasite. He has control over his mind and senses. That means he doesn't just control his external senses, he can now control his internal senses also. So there are activities of external senses and there are activities of internal senses also. Internal senses means I should know what should I think at this time. How should my mind intelligence work at this particular point of time? When one comes to that stage, then one can be called to be established in yoga. And for devotees, it happens by engaging all the senses in Krishna service. Prabhupada quotes Amrish Maharaj. Savai mana Krishna padaravinda vacham siva kundagunanu. So that's more for devotees. So devotees do it by engaging their senses in Krishna service, both external as well as internal, not just external. That's why this verse also started with Savai mana Krishna padarvinda. Mind should be engaged in, or it should be fixed on Krishna's lotus feet. Krishna's lotus feet means mind should think. The thoughts of Krishna service should only come in the mind, not thoughts of serving the senses or serving lust, envy, etc. Thoughts of serving Krishna. So then one can be called to be established in yoga. Okay. Now 19th. Yatha deepo nivatistho ningate sopamat smita yogino yat chittasya yunjato yogam atmanaha. Please read the translation.
As a lamp in the windless place does not waver, so the transcendentalist whose mind is controlled remains always steady in his meditation on the transcendent itself.
So this consciousness of yogi is devoid of movement. Means it is very fixed. It doesn't waver here and there. The example is the example of an arrow maker. So once one arrow maker was there, and there was a big entourage of king going from nearby. So there are people who were playing on the Sahnai, drummers who were beating drums. But this arrow maker, he didn't even realize that the entourage of king, it went nearby. He was so absorbed in sharpening the arrows. And the example which is given in this particular verse is the example of lamp. So lamp, when it is there in a windy place, it wavers. But when the lamp is there in a windless place, very steady. Similarly, this mind of this person is very steady. It doesn't just divert here. So this is a person who has attained perfection. Further, the qualities are given in 20-23. Yatro paramate chittam niruddham yoge sevaya yatta chaivatmanatmanam pasyan atmani tusyati sukham atantikam yattat buddhi grahayam atindriyam vetti yatra chaivayam istas chalati tattatah yam ladva chaparam labham manate nadikam tatah यस्मिन् स्थितो न दुःखेन गुरुणापि विचाल्यते तं विद्यात् दुःख संयोगा योगम योग संगीतम. Please read the translation.
In the stage of perfection called trance or samadhi, one's mind is completely restrained from the material mental activities by practice of yoga. This perfection is characterized by one's ability to see the self by the pure mind and to release and rejoice in the self. In that rejoice state, one is situated in boundless transcendental happiness, realized through transcendental senses. Established thus, one never departs from the truth, and upon gaining this, he thinks there is no greater gain. Being situated in such a position, one is never shaken, even in the midst of greatest difficulty. This indeed is actual freedom from all miseries arising from material contact. Hare Krishna.
In the purport, Prabhupada talks about two types of samadhis, sampragyata and asampragyata. So, I'll explain it a little bit. So, there are two types of samadhi which are there. Sampragyata samadhi. Okay, what you can do is first you can read this is third last paragraph of the purport in the yoga system.
In the yoga system, as described in this chapter, there are two kinds of samadhi called sampragnata samadhi and asampragnata samadhi. When one becomes situated in the transcendental position by various philosophical researchers, he is said to have achieved sampragnata samadhi. In the asampragnata samadhi, there is no longer any connection with mundane pleasure, for one is then transcendental to all sorts of happiness derived from the senses. When the yogi is once situated in that transcendental position, he is never shaken from it. Unless the yogi is able to reach this position, he is unsuccessful. Today's so-called yoga practice, which involves various sense pleasures, is contradictory. A yogi indulging in sex and intoxication is a mockery. Even those yogis who are attracted by the siddhis, perfections, in the process of yoga are not perfectly situated. If yogis are attracted by the byproducts of yoga, then they cannot attain the stage of perfection. As is stated in this verse, persons therefore indulging in the make show practice of gymnastic feats or siddhis should know that the aim of yoga is lost in that way. Next paragraph. Shall I read?
No.
Thank you.
So, sampragyata. So that means, Hare Krishna, am I audible?
Voice breaking.
Voice is breaking. So just a minute, what I'll do is something with the internet.
Yes, Prabhu, audible, Prabhu.
Audible? Okay. Okay. So sampragyata, sampragyata. So sampragyata means there is a meditation on some object. Some object is there and that meditation is there. Now this meditation may be gross or subtle. When things are gross, one can discuss about them. Which Prabhupada talk about philosophical topics. So that is called savitarka. Savitarka. Tarka means argument. You can talk about them because they are gross. But something which are not gross, something which are subtle, one can just think about them. That's called savichar. Like certain things which we see only in the mind. It's called savichar. So this is one type of samadhi. And second type of samadhi is where there is no material object at all. That is called asampragyata samadhi. In asampragyata samadhi, what happens is some people who meditate on Brahman. Brahman is spiritual, at the same time there's no object at all. Now, meditation on form of Lord Vishnu can also be called as spiritual, because it is not a material object. So in this way, these Ashtanga Yogis, their meditation can also be of varieties. And depending on their meditation, they also get results. So on what they are meditating, it matters. So there are various types of meditations. But certainly the one which is recommended by Lord Vishnu is, or Krishna himself is, meditate on Paramatma within the heart. So we'll see the bona fide one at the end of 32 verses. So we'll try to cover 32. After the verse number 32, we'll discuss about what Krishna speaks about. Okay. So talk about, so verse 22, first part of 23. Tam vidyat dukha sukhyata vyogam yoga sangitam. So that's only 32. And if you see the sanasya and yuktavyo, that will be talking about sampragyata. So verse number 22, first part of 23 talks about asampragyata samadhi. Because such a person is conscious and doesn't touch object at all. So such a person, his consciousness is totally restrained from any sort of object, gross or subtle. So this is basically talking about asampragyata samadhi, these verses which we are discussing now. So according to Patanjali, yoga is meant to stop the functions of consciousness. So now here very carefully, it's like difficult. So be very attentive now. If your mind is just actually, you can understand. So in that samadhi, what happens is yogi, seeing the self, Atmanam, which takes the form of Paramatma, is satisfied. That means one sees one is just satisfied with Paramatma within the heart. In that state of samadhi, he then experiences extreme bliss, which is comprehended by intelligence in form of soul. That means one is experiencing the bliss, but one can comprehend that bliss. Oh, I'm feeling the bliss. So one can understand, comprehend that. This is devoid of contact with any material senses and sense objects. So no metal, gross or subtle sense objects are in picture. It's totally spiritual. That means one is deriving either from Paramatma or from Brahman. But the recommended one is Paramatma. Paramatma in the heart. Then one doesn't move from that true state because one deriving bliss directly from Paramatma. The true form, Tattvata. So in that situation, one doesn't think there is anything better in this world. Because anything material can anyway not be compared to that pleasure. Am I audible to all of you?
Yes, bro. No issues.
Yes,
At least
Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu, audible, bro. Clear voice.
So then what happens is, yeah, I was talking about. So in that state, he doesn't consider anything else. And that is why such a person is free from dukkha samyoga viyogyam yoga sangita. One doesn't undergo miseries also, because miseries come when one comes in contact with material objects. So in this way, one becomes fixed in that happiness derived from meditating on Paramatma. Okay. Now there are methods which are spoken. So it is not that easy. It's not that easy. So it is said that mind will run here and there, but one should try to control one's mind without complaining. Oh, it's so difficult. How can I control it? I should not know. So it is said that it's very difficult. Still, you should try to control it. Like we have the example of, somebody remember the example of Garona saving the eggs of a bird from the ocean. Okay, let me tell the past time then. So once what happened is, there was a small bird, he had eggs, and these eggs were engulfed by the ocean. And then bird started challenging the ocean. My dear ocean, if you don't return my eggs, I'll dry you up. And ocean was just laughing. Oh. So what she was doing? She was taking some water in the beak, coming out, spitting it out. Now, considering this situation, how long will it take for the bird to dry up the ocean?
It's impossible.
Impossible. But at that time, what happened is, there was a big bird, Garuna. Garunadev was flying above. When he saw the endeavor of the bird, he became very impressed. And being impressed by that endeavor, Garunadev now challenged he told the ocean, my dear ocean, if you don't return the eggs, I will dry you up. How long would it take for Garunadev to dry up the ocean?
Just one gulp.
Even if he just moves his wings like that, whole ocean will be dried up. So that is called mercy. So what happens is, basically, even the yogis, if they want to be studying their meditation, they have to develop that attitude of devotion. That I am trying my best to get the, what do we say, to study my mind. It is very difficult, but by the mercy of Paramatma, it is possible. That's why even the yogi, they should have attitude of devotion towards Paramatma. Otherwise, they can't get their object of meditation. They can't study their mind. It's not possible. So studying his mind is not easy even for the yogis. It's a very difficult process. They also need mercy. So that's true even with the yogis also. So this is something, this is the pastime which even yogis quote. And also, it's about the yogis. I forgot the point. I was going to speak some point. Anyway, so it's not an easy one. It's a difficult one. So one should be convinced that the Lord will bestow mercy upon one, and one should enthusiastically go on. Yes, I was going to quote this about NY. So NY, we have verse number 1, 2, 3. Especially the Vacho Vegam and Sakrot Vegam, and the next one, and the second one and third one of do's and don'ts. They are given even in the Yoga Sutras or the Yoga Shastras. So verse number 1, 2, 3, which look like devotees, my God, Prabhu, no, why they're there in the NOI? Why Rupa Goswami is expecting us to be so strict? No, that's true even with the Ashtanga Yogis also. Even the Ashtanga Yogis also, they have to practice these rules and regulations, but they are necessary for the control of mind and senses. So it's difficult for them also. Controlling mind is never ever easy. Okay, Susaka Arjun, Visakha Mataji, we had question about Patanjali Yoga Sutras. So there's a quite a big discussion about it. But generally, the conclusion of Patanjali is not like very much appreciated by our acharyas. The reason is that after realizing Paramatma, they say that you are that Paramatma. And that is why the yoga process of Patanjali is considered to be part of Saddarshan, sixth system of philosophy, out of which 5 are considered atheistic. Only Vedanta Sutras are considered the theistic ones. So our acharyas, especially Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya in Chaitanya Charitamrita, he doesn't appreciate. He says they are more dangerous than Mayavadis also, in that sense. But when it comes to the system of controlling mind and senses, that can be accepted. So that can be accepted. So it is same only. Yam, Niyam, Asan, Pranayam, Pratyahar, Dharana, and so on. Same. But a lot of details are there. So we don't have to discuss all the details. Because anyway, we are not here going to practice Ashtanga Yoga. Okay. But the conclusion is not like very much appreciated. So many times some devotees say that, no, it is as good as Bhakti. No. The Ashtanga Yoga, which ends up in a culmination of Bhakti, is appreciated by the Acharyas, is the one which is given by Lord Kapila in Canto number 3, third canto. So that one is a very theistic one, and that is something which is appreciated by the devotees. We'll discuss more in details about yoga, different type of yoga systems, and different results also. Just after, let us complete till verse number 32. Then we'll discuss. So we'll start with 24 now. Sa nischayena yoktavyo yogo anirvinna chetasa sankalpa prabhavan kamam tyaktva sarvana sesatah manasvendriya gramam vinayam samantatah. Please read that translation.
One should engage oneself in the practice of yoga with determination and faith and not be deviated from the path. One should abandon, without exception, all material desires born of mental speculation and thus control all the senses on all sides by the mind.
So Prabhupada also gives the example of Garuna here. So one needs grace. 25, and then I'll take 24, 25 combined, because that is talking about a process. Sane saner uparamed buddhaya dhriti grihitaya atma samstham mana kritva na kinchit api chintayet. Please read the translation.
Gradually, step by step, one should become situated in trance by means of intelligence, sustained by full conviction, and thus the mind should be fixed on the self alone and should think of nothing else. Hare Krishna.
So the whole process is given in 24, 25. The first one, what one should do is give up the desires. Give up the desires. Why it is given? Give up the desires, not just material desires. The reason is that this is basically referring to people who are aspiring for Brahman. So spiritual desire doesn't have to be given up. But basically, at least material desires have to be given up. But those who don't have much discrimination, they give up all the desires. That's not considered very good. Then one should control all the senses by the mind. That means mind is fixed in meditation, and fixing mind on meditation doesn't need engagement of any senses. So senses or anyway become inactive. Because when one is meditating, senses will not roam around here and there. So one controls senses by the mind. That is the meaning of controlling senses by the mind. After that, one should cease all mental functions also. Mental function means don't think about so many things, because you have to think about only one thing now. So that happens by determined intelligence. Determined intelligence means one is determined about what one is going to do. Okay, so the mind should not go here and there. After the mind is very fixed, now where to fix the mind? Fix that mind on the self. Self basically here means is a super self, that is Paramatma within the heart. And one should not think of any material thing at all. So it should be on soul and super soul, not on anything else. So that is how there's a process of gradually fixing one's mind on Paramatma. That is how one seizes all the material functions. 26th. But Arjuna says, but mind will wander here and there. So what to do when the mind wanders here and there? So that Krishna speaks in text number 26. Yato yato nisalati manas chanchal asthiram tatas tatas niyametat atmanam evam vasam nayet. Please read the translation.
From wherever the mind wanders, due to its flickering and unsteady nature, one must certainly withdraw it and bring it back under the control of the self.
Now mind may suddenly come in contact with the mode of passion, Rajoguna. And then it may become unsteady and may again linger to the previous attachments. That means one is sitting in samadhi and one's eyes are half closed. But suddenly what happens is, maybe, in the lower part of the eye only one sees some green object. And one remembers, oh, green mangoes were so good. Now, at that particular point of time, I enjoyed eating this green mangoes with little salt, pinch of salt. So suddenly, mind may drag one towards sense gratification. That may happen. So then Krishna says, in that case, what to do? Bring back the mind back and again to meditation. And that's true with chanting also. So first thing we see, if we discuss about all the things Krishna is talking about, different steps in now, they are gross. They are gross, pretty gross. I'm not saying all the steps, but especially the beginning ones. So same thing we can apply even for chanting also. So when one wants to chant, there should be some secluded place. Secluded place means place where it's conducive to chant, not that we prepare only the place where that's a place for distraction. Let us say now you go and chant in a park where no 10 fellows are doing jogging and exercises. Automatically mind will move here and there. They may be doing Ashtanga Yoga and we may be holding a bead bag and seeing whether they're doing Ashtanga Yoga properly or not. We may be seeing that no, and we may not be practicing Bhakti Yoga by seeing their Ashtanga Yoga. So environment should be such that it's not a disturbing environment. It should be a peaceful environment. And we know the causes of distraction. Sometimes people are even, unfortunately, even devotees. No, they don't want to be attentive chanters. Then nothing can be done. First thing, you desire to at least be attentive chanter. And like one fellow was saying that, Prabhuji, people say it's so difficult to chant 16 rounds. For me, it is so easy. I just put my hand in the bead bag, I put on the TV. When 16 rounds are over, I don't realize also. That's when you are preparing to have a distracted chanting. So first thing is, understand now chanting attentively is very important. Then have the gross place ready. Sit properly in a way that no one is attentive to the chanting. Otherwise, no, somebody prepares nice cozy chair and sits like this, or a rocking chair like this, and you are holding a bead bag. How long will you chant? So sit in a way is conducive for chanting. Preferably some asanas. If somebody cannot sit in asanas, old age is there or the body is very heavy, at least sit in a way that it's not too comfortable. Similarly, all the regulations of don't eat too much. After eating nice feast, it's not easy to chant. Especially I'm talking about if you are eating too much. Or you're too much hungry, then also one can't chant properly. So be moderate. So there are gross things which one should prepare. And after that also, mind has a nature to wander. It's not something very surprising. So whenever mind wanders here and there, bring it back. And that is the internal work which a devotee does, which is supposed to be done. So that's why a yogi, whether a Ashtanga yogi or a Bhakti yogi, may be looking very lazy in the sense he's not doing anything, sitting at one place, but he's internally very active because he's struggling. And that struggle is an expression of our surrender towards Krishna. My dear Lord, why am I working so hard to again be attentive? Because I want you. So that's an expression of surrender towards Krishna. So it's not just useless even if somebody is struggling. Oh, Prabhu, I'm so struggling, mind is not coming in control. If you are struggling, Krishna will be pleased by that. That's an expression of surrender. Like when we cook physically from the hand, some bhoga, it's pleasing to Krishna. Or we run around and do some services with our hands and legs, it's pleasing to Krishna. Or when we move the arti, it's pleasing to Krishna. Similarly, when we are endeavoring again to control the mind and fixing back on the chanting of the holy names, it's pleasing to Krishna. That's the expression of our surrender. And by mercy of the Lord, like the bird attracted the mercy of Garuna and the whole ocean, he had to return the eggs. So similarly, by mercy of the Lord, no, we may progress in spiritual life, and then we realize that holy name is not different from his form, qualities, and pastimes. That will be revealed. Nam Rup Godvila. But this is something which is applicable for us also. So that's why we focused on this particular verse. Now we'll come back to Ashtanga Yoga. 27. Okay, just a minute. We'll take some questions. Seems like some question regarding. Okay, Vishakha Mataji. Vishakha Vaishnavi Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Am I audible, Prabhu?
Yes, you are audible. Yes.
Yeah. You said like the process of Ashtanga Yoga, giving up desires, controlling the senses. So all these things will come by this yoga process, or artificially they have to, train themselves like that. Because of doing this 8 process, they'll give up all these desires and all. Or it's like everything they have to train the mind. No, you should not do all these things like that.
It's a part of sadhana. It's a part of sadhana, and then it becomes a swabhav. Swabhav means it becomes a part of your nature. So initially, it has to be done as sadhana.
It's very difficult.
So that is the reason we were discussing about all these things. If you understand it's very difficult, then we should be very grateful that we have got the easiest process.
Yeah.
So we should be happy. Now, 27th. I already read the verse. No.
No problem.
Okay. Prasanta manasam hi enam yoginam sukham uttamam upayati santa rajasam brahma bhutam akalmasam. Please read the translation.
The yogi whose mind is fixed on me verily attains the highest perfection of transcendental happiness. He is beyond the mode of passion. He realizes his qualitative identity with the Supreme, and thus he is freed from all reactions to past deeds. Hare Krishna.
Then what will happen is, so when mind is wandering here and there, bring it back, again concentrate. And when you concentrate again you will enjoy that happiness of samadhi. So samadhi also doesn't mean that it will be eternal. It will be for something for a very long period of time is called samadhi. But even after, let us say, taking samadhi for 48 minutes or so, if it breaks, what to do? Again bring it back. Again enjoy samadhi for more time. And in due course of time, slowly, that duration of complete concentration will increase. And then one can enjoy the happiness of that samadhi for longer and longer time. Yunjan evam sadatmanam yogi vigat kalmasah sukhena brahma samsparsam atyantam sukham asnute. Please read the translation.
Thus, the self-control yogi, constantly engaged in yoga practice, becomes free from all material contamination and achieves the highest stage of perfect happiness in transcendental loving service to the Lord. Hare Krishna.
Then he attains success. Attaining bliss means he becomes Jivan Mukta. Jivan Mukta means one realizes I'm different from this body. I'm different from this body. I have a spiritual existence. So one becomes conscious of the spiritual existence. And suddenly Prabhupada has talked about transcendental loving service. Now for this Ashtanga Yogi, he may not be aspiring for it. सर्वभूतस्थम आत्मानं सर्वभूतानि चात्मनि ईक्षते योग युक्तात्मा सर्वत्र समदर्शनः. Please read the translation.
A true yogi observes me in all beings and also sees every being in me. Indeed, the self-realized person sees me, the same Supreme Lord, everywhere. Hare Krishna.
In this way, this verse talks about Jivan Mukta, which we discussed in the previous verse. So what is experience of Brahman? What is exactly Brahman realization is explained in this particular verse. Yoga Yukta Atma, that means a person who is realizing Brahman. So what about his sense perception? Ikshate. He sees the Paramatma who resides in all living entities. Sarva Bhut Stham Atmanam. So you can see, oh, Paramatma is there in everyone's heart. And also Atmani Sarva Bhutani, and he's also resting place of all living entities. That means all living entities are staying within Paramatma. So we talked about three types of Paramatma, if you remember. What are three types of Paramatma? Who three Paramatmas are there? Somebody remembers the three Paramatmas?
For individual
Karanadaka
soul,
Sai Vishnu, Garbhodaka Sai Vishnu, Chirodaka Sai. So, Paramatma of a living entity, Paramatma of a universe, and Paramatma of entire world. Paramatma of a
For individual, for every living entity, who is the Paramatma?
Chirodaka Sai Vishnu.
For universe?
Garbhodaka.
And for all living entities? Entire metal creation?
Karnadaksha.
Karnadaksha.
So first one, so for all living entities means he's talking about Karnadaksha Vishnu. All living entities staying in the resting on Paramatma. And Lord who is there in everyone's heart is talking about Sirodaksha Vishnu, basically. So he may not know those details, but those details are only known to the devotees or Yoga Mr. Bhaktas. But he can see that how everything is resting on Paramatma and Paramatma is in heart of every living entity. So he has that understanding. And he sees like that. And that is why he derives so much bliss. Because he's in contact with Paramatma. So that would be more emphasized in that next text number 30. Yo mam passati sarvatra sarvam cha mai passati tasya hamna pranasami sa cha me na pranasati. Please read the translation.
For one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost, nor is he ever lost to me. Hare Krishna Prabhu.
So Lord says, I, who is Brahman, he's never becomes invisible to that person, and that yogi also never becomes invisible to me. So he sees everything in relationship with me, and that's why he's not lost to me also. Because I am able to see this person is seeing me everywhere. So I also reciprocate accordingly, and as a reciprocation of that, one gets that bliss, that spiritual bliss. Sarvabhuta sthitam yomam bhajati ekattam asthita sarvatha vartamanopi sayogi mai vartate. Please read the translation.
Such a yogi who engages in the worshipful service of the super soul, knowing that I and the super soul are one, remains always in me in all circumstances. Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yogi who worships me as Paramatma, basically talking about Krishna, situated everywhere, even before direct realization, is beyond rules and regulations. That means somebody who knows that Paramatma is only Krishna. This Krishna who I am seeing is Paramatma. For such a person, no, he's beyond rules and regulations. He acknowledges that Paramatma alone exists. He is cause of all causes. He worships Krishna by hearing and chanting. So such a person, although he resides in this world, actually resides in Lord. He doesn't reside in this world. So sarvatha vartamanopi. So this is basically integrating at a devotee. So somebody who does it with knowledge, basically then he won't be counted as a just a Ashtanga yogi. Then he would be counted as a devotee. So devotee does the work of hearing, chanting, etc., and realizing Paramatma. So those who have understanding that Paramatma is only Krishna is only Paramatma, such people generally are the worshippers of Lord in Santras. And if you say it, that Paramatma is Narayan or Vishnu, Paramatma is Narayan or Vishnu, then he practices all this meditation, not hearing and chanting, but meditation. And through meditation, he wants to get Narayan, then he would be coming in the category of Yoga Mr. Bhakta. He won't be called just Ashtanga Yogi. He would be called a Yoga Mr. Bhakta. So I'll just take one verse and then I'll tell about different yoga, this so-called bhaktas. Sorry, the difference between yogis and Mr. Bhakta, etc. And also we'll discuss about Ashtanga Yoga process as given in the second canto of Bhagavata. So first we'll take one more verse, 32. Atmopammena sarvatra samam pasyati Arjuna sukham va yadi va dukkham sa yogi paramo mataha. Please read the translation.
He is a perfect yogi who, by comparison to his own self, sees the true quality of all beings in both their happiness and their distress. O Arjuna,
Krishna says that even yogi at the stage of sadhana should see things with equal vision. That even if you are a beginner, have that equal vision. So what is good for him and bad for himself is also good and bad for others. That means one sees other people also as good as himself. That if I am feeling pain by certain thing, others will also feel pain by same thing. And when they are in some miserable situation, I would have also been painful in same situation. So such a person, he desires happiness for everyone and he doesn't desire suffering for anyone. So that means this person has feeling for others also. He is not very selfish. So then Krishna said this particular person is the best. Not just that he is interested about his own welfare, he is worried about welfare of other people also. And that's why devotees try to preach and broadcast the glories of the Lord. So even Prahlad Maharaj says that Maunam charanti vijanena. So he in that verse he says that I do not want to be like yogis who are very selfish and they stay away from the common public and they hide and they do their own practices. So I don't want to be like that. So Krishna says that. That's why one who doesn't work only for one's own welfare, he also, when he got a perfection, he preaches about the perfection to others. So then Lord says he is the best. Now we'll come to the result of the yogis. First I'll show that particular process from second canto, and then I'll explain how different destinations would be there for different yogis. Yeah, all of you can see that on the screen.
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay. So this from second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So as we had discussed before, yam, niyam, asan, pranayam, they can be practiced even within one's family life, while simultaneously one practices Niskam Karma Yoga. Along with Niskam Karma Yoga, one can be Yoga Arurukshu, the beginner practice or the beginner of the practice of Ashtanga Yoga, and one practices this yam, niyam, do's and don'ts, asanas, different sitting postures for making the body fit, so that one can do meditation for a long time. That's basically preparation. By pranayam, as we discussed before, once mind becomes peaceful, doesn't remain distracted, one can focus on one point. But then as a part of pratyahar, which means reducing the amount of thoughts, reducing the food, water, etc., is also sannyas. So then one has to take sannyas, and after taking sannyas, one can go to the forest. Now, after going to the forest, what one has to do is, now you sit down for meditation. When one sits down for meditation, first thing is one has to choose the object of meditation. What has to be that object of meditation? Now, there can be two objects of meditation, which are recommended by Bhagavatam, generally for the Ashtanga Yogis. It can be Virat Rupa, it can be Paramatma. So if one has lot of material desires are there in the heart, then one should choose Virat Rup as one's Dharanasraya. Dharanasraya means the asra of dharana or asra of one's meditation. So one keeps on meditating on Virat. After some time, one examines himself. Am I free from material desires? So, or am I free from material desires? If one says, no, material desires are still there. So after doing Dharanasara on Virat for very, very long time also, if the material desires are not going, then one goes to a process called Karamurti. It's basically a process called Karamurti. So, and it's also sometimes called Archa Adi Marg. So this is a very famous one. Even certain Vaishnava Sampradayas, they follow that. Because they fear that now if in case we are not able to get the Supreme Lord, then at least we'll go through the Karamurti Marg, which is a gradual purification. So in Karamurti Marg, what happens is one goes to different places. Vaishnava Loka, Sumar Loka, Maharloka, Brahma Loka. Coverings of earth, water, fire, air, ether, etc. False ego, Mahatattva Pradhan. Why one goes through all these processes? Because on all these processes or places, one fulfills one's material desires. I just give one example to make it very easy to understand. Like when one enters in the earth covering of the universe, on the universe there are different coverings: earth, water, fire, air, ether, false ego, Mahatattva. Then comes Pradhan. So in the earth element, which is the most prominent object of sense in the earth. Earth is known for
taste, smell.
Smell, yes. Taste is there in water. Earth also has a taste, but the prominent one which is not there in other elements is the smell. So one may have desire to smell, have good this fragrance, that fragrance. So one may be thinking of, no, there's a smell which comes from the denim or some other brand and this brand and that brand. Whatever brands you want are available in this world and not available in this world. Smell like anything. Smell here, smell there, smell everything. And after all your desires to smell is fulfilled. Oh, smell of enough for smelling. Then the one particular demigod or demigoddess direct you to the next coverage, water. There you want to taste. You want to taste idli, sambar, or dosa and this and that. Whatever different type of taste you want to taste nicely. Till you say enough of tasting. I don't want any taste anymore. All my desires are fulfilled. Then one can go to the fire one where one can see whatever you want to see. Then air one of touching, whatever you want to touch. Ether of hearing, all sort of sounds. False ego by identifying with yourself with different things. So in this way, all desires are fulfilled. When all material desires, one is exhausted of all the material desires. At the same time, one has to practice. One has to be firmly practicing his own process of yoga also. Then finally, one can get liberation. Liberation means entering in Brahman. So this is called Karamurti Marg. Another marg which is there is after one realizes no material desires are there. Just by meditating on Virat Roop, one would get fully purified, because although Virat Roop is more like an imaginary form, but even that, because it is form of Lord Vishnu, it is purifying. It's purifying. So if one is purified of all the desires, then one can now meditate on the Paramatma within the heart. Till then, you are not qualified for meditating on the Paramatma in the heart. That's why many times devotees wonder, oh, how can somebody meditate on Paramatma? Descriptions are given, but that image would come only when one is free from material desires. Once Paramatma becomes the object of meditation, Dharanasraya, then one can start meditating on the form of Paramatma, full form of Paramatma. That is called Dharana. Then one can start, when one is fixed in Dharana, the form of the Lord, one is totally fixed in that, one's attention is fixed on that. After that, one can start doing limb by limb meditation on Paramatma, that's called Dhyan. Beginning with the lotus feet, slowly going above towards the lotus face. So beginning with rather the signs on the lotus. Vindam Vajrankusat Vajsarolanchanadyam Uttungarakta Velasanakha Chakravala Dosna Pranamandakam. These all the verses are in third canto. Sanchit Bhagavatas Sajana Vindam Vajra. So there is sign of Vajra there. Dhaya, flag is there. Saroru, lotus is there. Lanchanadam. So in this way, different gold, etc. All these signs are there. One meditates on those signs within the lotus footprint of the Lord. And slowly one rises up. And when the meditation becomes very steady and for very, very long time, it's called Samadhi. After Samadhi, what happens is, now these Ashtanga Yogis, they do a very, very painful. And depending on what they do now, their determination, their destination would be determined. My voice is breaking for everyone?
Yes, sometimes, Prabhu.
Okay. So if it's breaking, it won't be clear. So just a minute, I'll see the signal. Now it's clear. Signal seems to be, at least it appears to be better.
Yes.
Okay. Anyway. Okay, so so after, now one is absorbed in Samadhi in Paramatma. There can be different realization depending on one's understanding of or the purpose of Ashtanga Yoga. This demarks a big difference. So I'll explain about it, then I'll talk about a further chart. So now what happens is, this particular yogi, if he thinks that I am only Paramatma, we are the followers of Patanjali, one becomes more degraded than a Mayavadi also. Because one wants to become Vishnu. At least Mayavadis, though, they want to become some impersonal God. But here he wants to become a personal God. So then one becomes degraded. So such a person, generally Lord hands over him to Mayadevi for repeated birth and death. Again, one will get a material body. Somebody who thinks, although this Paramatma form is very good, but it is not my destination. My destination is Brahman. He does the painful work of withdrawing his consciousness away from Paramatma, and he tries to realize the Brahman. That means you are giving away superior bliss to realize an inferior bliss. Then such a person, how we will enter in Brahman realization or get enter in Brahman, we will explain later on. I just tell the destination now. So such a person will get Brahman realization. The second one. Now, third realization will be the realization of a person who is called Yoga Mr. Bhakta. More elaborately about him will be taught in chapter number 8. So he wants to make a relationship with the Lord. And generally, these people, they want to have relation with the Lord more on a Santaras platform. So they become attracted to this Paramatma and say, oh, it is such a bliss to be with this personality, Paramatma. Why shouldn't I have eternal relationship with this man only, this personality only, Paramatma? So then he doesn't withdraw his consciousness away from Paramatma. He's a fortunate one. He would be called a Yoga Mr. Bhakta. Because his goal is to get Paramatma. And what is the result? He gets Paramatma. But more on a Santaras platform generally. So that's why the trees and the birds of Vaikuntha, they are considered great yogis. Why? Because the goal of their life is to get Paramatma, or they become very much enamored by the magnanimity of Paramatma. Paramatma is so great. So what can I do for him? But at the same time, he's so great. I just want to be absorbed in him. So then these people, they get Santarasa. And if it is only Paramatma, then they may even go to the three Vishnus. Garbhodaksha Vishnu, Sirodaksha Vishnu, Karnadaksha Vishnu. See, why I am discriminating here is because knowledge of Paramatma means they have the knowledge of how Lord creates, maintains, and destroys this world. This is the function of three Vishnus. But having of the knowledge how Lord reciprocates with other living entities is there in Vaikuntha. How he reciprocates with his devotees. So in this way, among these Yogamisa Bhaktas also, there can be two destinations, depending on what type of guru one is having. So somebody became fortunate just by meditating on Paramatma, he may just meditate on Paramatma and be with Paramatma. But let us say he was fortunate enough to get a devotee who tells him that how this is Vaikuntha and Lord Narayan can have such a relationship with the living entities. The personality you're meditating on is that Lord Narayan only. Then such a person, he may be fortunate enough to even go to Vaikuntha and have relationship with Lord Narayan in Santaras. So there can be four destinations we discussed. One can become a offender by thinking I am Vishnu. Second is, so such a person gets a repeated birth and death. He gets a material body again. Second destination can be for a person who wants to achieve Brahman. He does the painful work of withdrawing consciousness away from Paramatma and meditation Brahman. Third person, he may go to three Vishnus, other Vishnus. And fourth person, if he is fortunate to have some devotee who is a guide, he may even go to Vaikuntha. So there can be different destinations for with the same process. That's why Sambandha Gyan is so important. Who am I? Who is Krishna? What is my relationship with Krishna? It's very important. So you see in all these four people, all these four different people, they have different Sambandha Gyan. Who they are. First one thinks I am only God. Second one is who thinks God is impersonal Brahman and I am supposed to merge in him. I am his part, but I want to become merge in him. Third one is the one who has understanding of Lord as the Lord who is creator, maintainer, and destroyer of this world. He goes to Paramatma, three Vishnus. And fourth one is he knows, he has awareness of Lord's relationship with the devotees. And he becomes a Santaras Bhakta in the Vaikuntha plan. So that's how this Sambandha Gyan is not ordinary. It matters. Okay. Anybody has any question on this? Then they may ask. Okay, Santosh.
Am I audible, Prabhu?
You're audible, yes.
Yes, Prabhu. As you have seen in the graph, like the yogi who is, there's a check, right, Dharana Ashraya, then he checks this desire, whether does he have a desire or not. If he has desire, there's some set of process like karma mukti. He follows and go for liberation. Like the devotee who follows for many years, after following many years, still the material desire, if it is there, what he should do? Like unfortunately, he's not able to do pure devotional service.
Continue. The pure devotion service has nothing to do with material desires. One may be having material desires, still one can practice pure devotion service. Okay. So it's not that I have material desires, how can I practice pure devotion service? Pure devotion service doesn't depend on material desires. If one is not practicing devotion service to fulfill those material desires, it is considered pure devotion service.
Okay.
Anna Bilasita Sunyam. One is not practicing for fulfilling of material desires. If one is praying, my dear Lord, please remove these material desires. I don't want these material desires. That means his practice is pure devotion service. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. If there are no question, again we'll go to the chat and tell you the final destination. Okay, now there are questions. Narasimha bro. Yes, Narasimha bro. You can ask your question.
Yeah, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Prabhu, in the chart which you are showing on the Krama Mukti side, so there are so many, like in the order, like Vaishnava Loka, Sir Loka, you mentioned up to Pradhan to attain liberation. So they have to go through all these lokas to fulfill their material desires, and then only liberation will be coming, Prabhu.
Yeah. That's why it takes very, very long time. Kram Mukti is very, very long. The word Kram only you can understand. Kram is one by one.
Yeah.
So it takes very, very long time. See, that is the reason. That's why it is. It's not considered shortcut. It is a very long cut. Other side is shorter as compared to Kram Mukti. Kram Mukti takes a very long time.
Okay.
But when one desires are not going, only what to do? Not going, then what to do? At least follow Kram Mukti. Okay.
Okay, bro. Hare Krishna.
Vishaka Vaishnavi.
Hare Krishna. Prabhu, you said Yoga Mishra Bhakti is one of the two types. One will go to 3 Vishnus, right? So they'll again come back to this world, or they'll be along with it?
Abodes of Lord Vishnu are eternal.
Okay. So they'll
Although they may be here.
But there will be they'll be just along with the Vishnu and observing and that mood.
Observing and praying to him, etc. And if they're fortunate, then after going there, they may, let us say, generally they are not like attracted, but let us say nobody will be unsatisfied in Vaikuntha or abodes of Vishnu, that one has to understand. So in case one is unsatisfied, one may even get Dasa Bhakta or something like that. But one doesn't become unsatisfied. Okay.
And this other class, no Prabhu, like who realized Paramatma and going back to Brahman. So it's like very strange, no? Like they realized, I mean, they know the form, but still they are more attracted to impersonal form. That's why they are going back to Brahman again.
Yeah. It's not that they're attracted, it is that conception or Sambandh Gyan was given to them by their own Acharya who was guiding them.
So they knew that perfection is to reach Brahman, even though they realize Paramatma, they do not know that this Paramatma is higher than Brahman.
Yes.
That's why.
The problem is there with their insufficient Sambandh Gyan. So because they had insufficient Sambandh Gyan, their Guru never told them that Paramatma realization is higher than Brahman realization. So that's why even after going to Paramatma, they don't like consider Paramatma as the goal of life. Like you might have seen sometimes when we take new congregation people to some dham, some holy place, they go somewhere else only. I remember no, I took one Vrindavan Yatra. So one devotee said, can I bring my brother also? I told you bring his brother. So, but after reaching Vrindavan, he was missing in between. He thought, no, where did he go? So in Vrindavan, somehow he followed, could search for some Devi temple, and he went to take darshan of Devi ji. So I told him, whole world is only Devi Dham. Everything, whole world belongs to Durga Devi. And here we came to Krishna's place, the husband of Durga Devi, and here also you are searching for Durga temple only. So similarly, so that is called Sambandh Gyan. Sambandh Gyan was not clear to it. So only when Sambandh Gyan is clear, one can be very fixed in destination. So those who have understanding of Sambandh Gyan, okay, Brahman is highest. Fine, go to Brahman. So they come to Paramatma, come in front of Paramatma and leave Paramatma and go to Brahman. Okay, Sarojini Kalini Mate. Your further question? Yes, Mata.
Now, when we are talking about this Sambandha Gyan, if they are in the Paramatma, when they realize Paramatma, then what kind of, like we say, if we realize Bhagavan, we have that blissfulness with the relationship with the God. So, won't they get any type of realization when they have that connection with Paramatma?
They don't get that knowledge, but they don't want that knowledge. Main thing is, are you now? If they're fortunate, they can challenge their conception. That's what I'm saying. In case they're fortunate, they will challenge their conception. Oh, I used to think no Brahman is highest, but no, Brahman has no form, doesn't seem so blissful. It talks about peace, but here I'm getting bliss which is higher than peace. And this bliss is certainly not a material bliss, it is spiritual bliss. This form is also eternal form. Why should I leave Paramatma? So if somehow if they get that intelligence, then they will be fortunate to at least go to Paramatmas, three Paramatmas. But if that doesn't happen, oh no, actually, I want peace, no, so much of bliss is good. And go to Brahma. So opportunity is there. But are you availing that opportunity is the main thing. Like for this person, I was just quoting, he had an opportunity to go to different Krishna temples. But rather than going to Krishna temple, even after coming to Vrindavan, he is going to Devi temple only. Or sometimes, even after coming to Vrindavan, especially North Indians, they are Subhadra Gaurangi Mataji may be knowing. These all fellows, they go to this chart center. There are a lot of chart centers and they're big malls just with different varieties of chaat. Chaat is pani puri and this and that. So many times people go to Vrindavan for enjoying these places. Mataji, am I right? Subhadra Gaurangi Mataji? Yeah. So there are people who go. And these things you can eat in house also. No, why you have to go to Vrindavan for these places? So even looking science gratification there. So same thing is true. So despite being in presence of Paramatma, one is just thinking of no, I want to merge in the effulgence of Paramatma. You are getting full person. You don't want full person. I want only effulgence. What to do? Okay. So that personal choice is.
So unless they fix on their what is their goal, even though they know which is higher, they won't go to that place. I mean, from Brahman to Paramatma to Bhagavan.
You see, they don't know. They don't know. That's called Sambandh Gyan. See, these people who enter in Brahman, they think that realization of Brahman is superior to the realization of Paramatma. Although they are in presence of Paramatma, although they are realizing Paramatma. It's like, as I told, na, person is in Vrindavan, he can get getting blessings of Krishna, and by getting blessings of Krishna, automatically you get blessings of Maya Devi. who's servant of Krishna. But I don't want to know Krishna. I want only Maya Devi. What can be done? That means your understanding is that Maya Devi is superior to Krishna. Durga is superior to Krishna. So that defect of the knowledge, defect of someone again. Okay. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, fine. So again, we'll go back to the chart. If nobody has any question. Okay. So now what this happens is, now this person gets Brahman realization. Brahman realization means basically realizing I am not body, I am soul. And also realizing the all-pervading effulgence of the Lord. So Sarva Khalo Ita Brahman. This Brahman is everywhere. Effulgence of the Lord is everywhere. Including this material world. So you can say in one sense, there's something which I realized from the talk of two very senior Prabhupada disciples. One of them is a Pankanangi Prabhu. So they had a talk. So they were telling that there are parallel worlds. Parallel worlds in the sense, we may be seeing matter here. At the same time, there is Brahman also existing in the same place. It's like soul is there, soul cannot be seen. So Brahman is also spiritual effulgence of the Lord. It cannot be seen with the material eyes, although it is pervading everywhere. So they realize that all pervading Brahman, which is everywhere. At the same time, they also realize that I am also part and parcel of that Brahman. Sarva Khalo Ita Brahman. So that's called Brahman realization. Okay, Kalyan Prabhu.
Prabhu, now we just understood that once we have realization of Vishnu, there will be you will serving Vishnu, or you will have one or the other sevas to Vishnu Lok, Vaikuntha. The same way, the person who is realized to Brahman. So, what could be the activity for that souls, Prabhu, in Brahman? We all know that it's
No
effulgence
activity.
of Lord. So, what will happen, Prabhu? Go there. Just ideal.
You be part of that. You just merge in it. That's all. Khatam. No activity.
Okay. Okay.
And he rested eternally for peace.
Okay. RIP means exactly this, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Eternally resting in peace. Okay.
Okay, Prabhu. But as a soul, we always need something, right? As a soul, we always need something to do activity, but it is rest. Okay.
What to do?
Okay. That's their wish.
That's their wish.
Okay. Okay.
So after realizing this Brahman everywhere, Sarva Khalo Ita Brahman, then now because you have not yet given up your body, that means you have not finally attained Brahman till now. So then what person does is, then he takes shelter of a process called Chakra Yoga. You must have heard it a lot. Advertising here and there, everywhere. But who is fit to do that? Person who is Brahman realized is fit to do that. It's not a means. Now you understood? No, many devotees were asking a lot of questions regarding Chakra Yoga. This is Chakra Yoga. So the chakras are there on the backbone part.
Yes.
So one lifts oneself through prana basically, because these airs, they also control the mind, and they, in that sense, they control the consciousness also. So one lifts from Muladhara Chakra to Lagya Chakra. Then there is a Bindusar is there, and just a minute, I'll see the highest portion. I think I made it in Bhagavad Gita also. Just a minute. So I'll tell. Okay. So these are the 6 chakras. So beginning with Mooladhara chakra, which is the bottommost portion of the bottommost chakra. Then comes Swadhisthana chakra. Then Manipur chakra is there. Anahat chakra is there. Visuddha chakra is there in the throat. Then Agya chakra is there between the eyebrows. So this Agya chakra. Out before, beyond this Agya chakra is a Bindu. And then there's a Sahasrara. And then what happens is one can lift one's soul and one breaks open the skull and one can enter in the Brahman. And that is how one gets liberation. So that's the process of achieving liberation. Okay, is that clear? So that happens after realizing Brahman realization. Not that no prematurely one does that, you will get the result. So the Chakra Yoga is meant for, it's basically a mechanical process for achieving perfection. Otherwise, so.
Sorry, in that way he reached Brahman, Prabhu. In that process, am I audible, Prabhu?
Yes, but you have to speak a bit loudly.
Now is it fine, Prabhu?
Now that's audible. Yes.
Yeah, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, as I said, the process like when he leaves the body, this body from this part, will he reach to Brahman or how, Prabhuji?
Because what happens is this pranavayu, it acts like a propeller. And it takes you to a high destination. So this is basically Chakra Yoga. Now there may be people who may be even attracted to the Swargaloka and other places. They can also take the shelter of Chakra Yoga, but then they will go to Swargaloka. They will not get Brahman realization. So Chakra Yoga is more of a mechanical process. But the problem is for those who have material desires, it can become very dangerous also. It's like you're going and no, suddenly, hopefully one doesn't become attracted to some hellish planet. Oh, this fellow's crying from here like anything. Let me go and just go and see what is happening to this person. You will go there also. So, very dangerous. So that's why those who are free from material desire, those who have achieved Brahman realization, they utilize it, they can utilize it properly for going to getting Brahman realization. So it's more of a mechanical process. Okay.
Thank you, bro.
So you must have seen the photograph in our Bhagavad Gita, and I think Bhagavad Gita also is there, no?
Yes, bro. Yes, bro.
Yeah. So it acts more like a propeller. Pranavayu acts more like a propeller to take you there. Okay, Visakha, Vaishnavi Mataji.
Hare Krishna. So people who reached Brahman realization, they also have a chance to fall down, Prabhu, to come back to this material world again.
Okay. If they are not satisfied, they will come back.
They will come. Okay.
If they're satisfied there, then fine. But if they are not satisfied, they'll come back.
But can't they go upwards, Prabhu? The way they come back, not they wanted to.
If they are fortunate and they desire to go up, then they can go up. So I think I read in or Bhakti somewhere. The Lord Seva sometimes does Sankirtan there, and some souls are fortunate to be attracted and then they can go. So that possibility is there to go up also, provided one has some shelter, some information. See, unless until one has the information of a higher place, how will one desire to go there? That is the main thing. See, unless until one has knowledge of certain thing, one not desire those things only. So that desire is required, the information is required. So that's why one needs devotees. Without devotees, one will not develop that desire. Okay. Okay, Narasimha bro.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. So to attain this Brahman realization itself, it is so complicated. And after that, to attain Brahman, again the Chakra has to be done. So this, who will do this, Prabhu? It is so much complicated, right? Means, so after attaining, and they'll go to Brahman, and in Brahman there is nothing, and it is void. And how will they stay there, Prabhu? Means,
It's not void. It's effulgence everywhere. Brahman means basically effulgence of the Lord, which consists of living entities. Like sunlight consists of photons. The Brahman effulgence consists of living entities. It's filled with living entities. But because effulgence is there and living entities are everywhere. See, in the sense that only when I see some variety, I can see some differentiation. When there is no variety, there is no differentiation. So everything looks same only. So one starts imagining that Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman, I am Brahman. So in this way, so it's very difficult. And that is the reason you have a choice, either chant Hare Krishna, go to Goloka, or not take this whole tedious process of Ashtanga Yoga. Okay. So our purpose of explaining it is to help you understand that how Bhakti is such an easy process. Okay. So
okay.
You understood that and purpose is solved.
Yeah, Prabhu, that chart explains itself, Prabhu. It's such a long process, and finally, like, you're going only to the Brahman. Yeah.
We may be saying only Brahman, but for them it's big thing because you have worked so hard. Okay. So it's so we have to understand that is called mercy. This is really mercy, that just by simply by chanting and dancing and feasting and having such a joyful path. Oh, one goes to Golok Vrindavan. So it's really causeless mercy of Supreme Lord coming through our acharyas.
Yeah, Prabhu.
Prabhu, recently I had interaction with another spiritual person. He told her Brahman is the highest one. Then I said, okay, Hare Krishna. I said, I moved. I tried to explain him, but he is not in the position to understand. Then I just give it up.
He want to follow the chart. You don't want to follow the chart.
Yes.
You became discouraged by seeing the chart. He became enthusiastic by seeing the chart.
And he's quoting me the example. If you are in a college of 5th class, you wanted to stay there, you don't want to go to 10th class, like that he was saying. Then I understand this example not holds very good here. Then I said, okay, you carry on, I said. I also quoted the example of this Bhagavatam sloka, Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagavaneti. He still is not in the position to understand. First of all, they don't know concept.
I should have told him, I'm going to become CEO of company simply by studying in 5th class. Why should I waste my time and study till 10th class?
Correct. This is explain. Yeah.
So our process is very easy. Just by that we are getting perfection.
Yes.
Okay. So it's already 9 o'clock. We'll end here. And we'll read in the next concept, the concept of mind. Again, very interesting to devotees in our next class. So we'll end here. Tantras, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki
Jai.
Shilpa Pad.
Jai. Thank you.